Today we are diving into one of the most intense and, frankly, challenging stories you'll ever come across. It's about a father, his son, and a command that seems to defy all logic and reason. This story really pushes the very limits of what it means to trust and obey.
So, let's just jump right in with the core question this story forces us to ask. What does it actually look like when faith is pushed to its absolute breaking point? You know, when the one command you receive seems designed to shatter every single promise you've ever been given.
Well, the story of Abraham gives us a pretty startling answer, and it all kicks off with a command from God that seems to completely contradict everything he had already promised.
And this, right here, lays out the core conflict perfectly. On one hand, you've got this incredible, life-defining promise. Abraham, you're going to be the father of a nation, with more descendants than there are stars in the sky. And Isaac, your beloved son, he's the key to that whole thing. But then, on the other hand, comes this absolutely devastating command: sacrifice that very son. The promise and the command are on a collision course.
And it's so important to see that this isn't just presented as a dramatic story. No, it's explicitly framed as the ultimate test of trust and obedience. It's a moment that's literally designed to reveal what Abraham's faith is really made of.
So, how in the world did Abraham respond to this unbelievable paradox? Well, his response shows us a kind of faith that operates way beyond the limits of our normal human logic.
So the first huge takeaway here is this idea that genuine, deep obedience can sometimes feel like it makes absolutely zero sense. It's this moment when what you're being asked to do seems to go against all reason, especially when you compare it to what you thought you already knew for sure.
And when you break it down like this, you can really see just how counterintuitive this whole thing was. Point by point, the logic just falls apart. God promises descendants through Isaac, then tells Abraham to sacrifice Isaac. I mean, it seems to just cancel out the entire promise. It's a logical dead end. And yet, Abraham chooses to comply.
And this is crucial, because it shows Abraham's faith wasn't just him blindly accepting chaos. Not at all. It was actually rooted in this profound belief that even if he couldn't see how, God would somehow still make good on his original promise. He basically reasoned that God was powerful enough to raise Isaac from the dead if that's what it took to fulfill his word.
This incredible trust he had, well, it becomes even clearer during that long 3-day journey to the mountain. Just a few words that Abraham speaks to his servants, they reveal everything.
Right before he and Isaac head up the mountain for the sacrifice, he says something that gives us this little window directly into his mindset. It's a tiny detail, but wow, it speaks volumes about his trust that God was ultimately in control of this whole situation. Did you catch that? It's so easy to miss. He doesn't say, "I will return," which, let's be honest, would be the logical thing to say if he thought he was about to sacrifice his son. He says, "We will return." He's including Isaac in the return trip, expressing this certain hope that somehow both of them would be walking back down that mountain. And this just brilliantly highlights the depth of his faith. "I will return" implies a tragic acceptance of loss. It's a statement of grief. But "we will return." That's a statement of defiant hope. It shows that Abraham fully expected God to intervene, maybe by providing another sacrifice, or maybe even by restoring Isaac to life, just to keep his original promise.
And this brings us to our second huge lesson. Real obedience means trusting God with the results. Abraham did what he was told, one step at a time, all while leaving the final outcome, the consequences, completely in God's hands. Okay, so let's bring all of this together, because at the very moment of sacrifice on top of that mountain, all the tension finally breaks, and we see the ultimate point of this whole intense test of faith.
And here it is, the climax. Just as Abraham raises the knife, an angel of God calls out, stopping him. And there, caught in a thicket, is a ram to take Isaac's place. This is the moment that confirms God's real intention was never for Abraham to kill his son, but to test the absolute depth of his obedience and trust.
So what are we supposed to walk away with from this incredible story? Well, two really powerful ideas. First, that true faith sometimes operates on a level that's totally beyond our own human reason. And second, it involves this radical trust. It means acting in obedience while completely letting go of control over the outcome.
And all of that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. Look, Abraham's test was extreme for sure, but it turns this ancient story into a very real question for our own lives. When we're facing situations or commands that just seem illogical, when the path forward is confusing and makes no sense,
How can we learn to cultivate a faith that trusts God with the outcome? That's the challenge this story leaves with us today.